The clap. Kia ora everyone, what's up? And welcome back to another episode of Hori's Tell Stories. I'm your host Cairo. We've got KPC next to me, or better known as Kalen Ponga's cousin.
Kia ora boys, back-to-back potties today.
Yeah.
First cousin?
First cousin, yeah.
First cousin. Ex-Burpee world record holder as well.
No, it's good to do, double up on the potties on the weeks off mahi, just trying to run it past the misses that we're doing two today.
Yep.
Doesn't always go down too well. It's got to make it up to later on
the beers
tonight, boys.
Yeah, on the beers
Bit of
tonight.
a foot rub.
No kids, bro. So everything must be going smooth.
Yeah,
at home.
exactly, bro. I said I had to have a word with them after the last one. I was like, look, babe, don't know how to say this, but no kids. Too much pressure from the brothers.
Can't bring the kids to the potty.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
And over to the right, we got wisest man on earth, old Coach Job.
Kia ora whānau, back again, back-to-back potties.
Yep.
Love it, bro. Fridays.
And look, we're very lucky to have another guest. Ex-NRL player, played for the Roosters, Raiders, Panthers and the Storm. Won a premiership with the Storm as well. Yep.
Nice.
He's the face of everything. I see his face everywhere.
Bro,
Facebook ads.
You pop up on everything on socials, bro.
I have heard this.
Hey, the man's good looking.
Yeah.
What can you say?
Skincare. Bro, I even seen you on a dentist ad as well or something. Yeah, it came up yesterday, bro.
Really?
But yeah, you're everywhere, brother. And that's... and also Air Locker as well. And we'll speak about that soon. And that's Sandor Earl. Welcome,
Thank
bro.
you guys.
Welcome,
Appreciate
brother.
having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, awesome, bro. Thanks for giving up your time. We know you're only here for a short time.
Busy
but,
man,
for a chat.
Grateful,
Love
bro.
it.
Grateful. But before we continue on with this episode, this podcast is sponsored by Cuzzies. If you want yourself
Cuzzies.
a good taste of Aotearoa, get down to Cuzzies in Bertram, get yourself a hangi, raw fish, all that not so good
Chuck
stuff.
on those extra
I think
kgs,
it's the can-do kina whānau. Those are the ones you're looking for because they're from down in the bluff, eh?
Yep.
Can-do kina.
There you go.
There we
Man
go.
knows. Man knows.
Man knows his
Don't want
killers,
those
bro.
Coromandel ones. They're skinny, those buggers. Yeah. Can-do bluff ones.
All right, there you go. All right, boys, pit and peak of the week. We'll start to our left as per usual.
Start us off back to the whole mahi thing. Like I was saying, it's going really well, trying to prove myself. I was telling the bro earlier with the bosses, kiss a bit of ass because I've got a bit of a goal I want to get offshore.
Yep.
So been fortunate enough that they kind of acknowledged in the short time that I've been there, putting in the mahi, with trying to build that community with all the events and stuff. So I got a meeting with the big boss. Bit of drama up at site lately. I love a bit of fucking goss, when people are spilling the
you
tea,
do,
because I work by myself, and so I just, get on with everyone. I don't really have to work with anyone because I'm at the gym by myself. And yeah, there was a bit of an incident where apparently I told some guy to fuck off during the yoga session, or stretching session, I should say. They're
That
like, hey,
wouldn't surprise me.
did you
as
tell
well, bro.
blah, blah, blah
if
to
you did
fuck
do
off because he was taking photos of the girls' asses? And I was like, who? And they're like, Chris. I was like, who the fuck is Chris? Like, honestly, didn't happen. If it did, I would have said something, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, you as your instructor. And so there's been some story that's been spun around and it's getting mixed around site that Chris is a pervert. I've told him, the big boss is like, hey, I need you to write an email. And this is something that never actually even happened, bro. So I've been roped into some little scandal, but someone said something at the dinner table. Someone else has overheard. They've gone and told Chris. Chris has gone into the office. And like, this never, Chris come up to me, nice guy. Hey, Levi. He's like, I'm Chris. I was like, oh, fuck, nice to meet you, bro. Didn't even know who he was. So a bit of gossip, bit of tea going around. And even at the team meeting the other morning, two girls going head to head, calling each other, telling other girls, oh, she's a hungy pants. I love it, bro. I'm sitting there like a fly on the wall.
I was going to say, bro.
I'm like, bro, you love this. I walk down to the office. I'll go see the officers, like managers. Hey, morning. How are you? How's your day been? Good. I go back to the other side of site by myself.
There's a reality show out
Yeah.
there.
And I just love it. Come down. How's your day been? They're like, oh, don't get me started. So what's been going on? I love it, bro. But the big pit, bro, is got brother's wedding coming up, kids' birthdays, and I'm away for it all. So that's the reality of the FIFO gig, family. So daughter's birthday, missing their assemblies, their awards, my birthday, Christmas.
Yeah,
apparently it's a blackout period. So I've got a bit of a tricky little situation there where we're meant to be going home for brother's wedding and Christmas, but apparently blackout period. So I don't know whose feet I have to rub, bro, to try and see how we go. So that's a bit of a pit for me, all the whānau time. But You put in peak, boys.
Nice, bro.
The highs and lows
Nice.
of FIFO.
Yep, that's it. Joe.
The Peak Boys Dad's Challenge started on Monday.
Hissing.
Dad's
Yep.
Challenge, yeah.
Yep.
It's absolutely hissing this time, bro. So I'm seeing if I could do some collab work. Got Big Taryn Katu doing us a seminar on the deadlift and the squat and stuff for the dads, because a lot of them haven't done that sort of work before, bro. Big Daddy's boxing gym as well. We're going to do some
Lucas
work
Brown.
up there.
A lot of testosterone, and the
Yeah,
boys
yeah.
will love it.
And I know a few fellas at this at the air locker training, bro, yesterday.
Let's get him in.
Hey.
So just trying to get the collab work up and running for the boys on the Dad's Challenge. They're loving it, bro. The group chat is hissing. It's
Banter
it's
too, in the chat.
Good vibes, bro. I just had to put in there, up the Warriors. Up the Warriors. Just got that group chat nice and hissing, boys. But the pit bros happened about half an hour ago. I had to cancel my clients, as I do when I have podcasts, and I missed one of them, and I saw him and his missus were coming to see me at 1:30 today, and they were driving down from up north. So Sammy and Rocky, I'm sorry, Whānau, they were coming to do their
Here he is.
onboarding
See.
and their body mass scan and all of that as well. They got babysitters for the kids to come and see me too. Sammy, Rocky, I'm so sorry.
A
I'm
couple
so
of free
sorry.
sessions,
I've
surely.
got two lots of calendars. I've got to make sure I amalgamate it next time, eh?
Yep.
Sorry, Whānau.
We've all done
Unlucky,
it. We've all
bro.
done it.
Unlucky. Sandor.
Yes. Look, I come in originally. I know Corey told me about this, so I wanted to share a little reflection as well. But peeking the pit of this week, pit was rocked up. Normally, it's luck of the draw how I get booked in my hotels.
Yep.
Now, it's a bit of a peak and a pit. I rocked up. I got booked the rendezvous at Scarborough, so as you know, no
Ooh.
complaints there.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
normally we have a little bit of a tight budget, so there was no kitchenette. I had no food, nothing to cook. Anyway, I went and bought a microwave. Ended up finding a little meal prep place, so that got me by. So originally a pit, but a peak. For me this week, bro, I'm very grateful. The platform that I have in terms of Air Locker, you know, you boys got to experience it. It goes beyond the altitude in the gym. Like, I just love the space. I'm very grateful I get to go around to all the new studios, meet people. For me, my power is utilising everything I've been through and using it to relate to people. So I just have such a big passion and I suppose confidence to bring people into the space, big, small, introverted, extroverted, and you can make them feel 10 feet tall, you know, and give them an amazing experience.
Good
so,
energy.
Yeah, that's what I
man.
love about it, bro. So I'm very grateful that I get to do that, and a new studio in Perth. And I was sitting there today and I was reflecting. We had sort of a TV in the lobby that shows all these different things. And I was sitting there looking at it, and it was like, you know, recently we've got to meet Tyson Fury. I randomly met Hasbulla the other month. He came into
Yeah,
an
I've
hour.
seen that, bro. Yeah.
Fuck.
And bro, you got to sit back. You sit back and like you get. I'll be fully transparent with you boys. Like, of course, I want to talk about Air Locker and pump it up, but bro, it's fucking tough, man. Like,
Yeah.
to build a franchise, it's a hell of a journey, bro. Like, my experience in a studio, and you boys would be the same. Anything you do, if I can put it on my back and I can do it, no problem. Like, we'll get it done. But when it's about building systems and supporting other people and trying to build their journey and they're investing their life into it, it gets real tough, you know. So that's the tough one. But you sit back and you get so caught up in the bubble of like what I'm doing and what's coming, and you sit back and you go, fuck, you know what? I remember in COVID when I was posting about that little Hasbulla guy and just like how funny it was, and then 2 years later you're in a studio with him, he's punching you in the face.
Did you get a jab?
Yeah,
Did you get a jab?
For more than a jab, kick and everything. I was on the ground. But you know, just little moments like that, and you just have to sit back and reflect. And when you spoke about peak or pit, bro, I thought, you know, at the end of each workout we do the mindset of meditation.
yeah,
You
the
get to
meditation.
reflect, and I was like, just that roller coaster. Every time I get in this phase, or some things that have happened in my life, the worst thing, the biggest adversity is always followed by the best thing.
Yep.
And I think part of that is the mindset, the approach you take to it. But if you also have an open mind and you're reflective and you sit there and it forces you to figure things out, it forces you to go inward and look at different things that you're doing or actions in your life. And for some reason, just that roller coaster, and it's happened that many times now that I just have this perspective that you have to accept it. You're a little bit emotional, but as soon as you can, move forward, and literally the best things have been followed by the worst.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a credit to the resilience, and if you can have awareness and just be very reflective. So I like the peak and the pit, but I also love just taking that and then just trying to bring into your life a very possibilities over problems mindset, and you harden that up and you flex that mental muscle enough times, you just have this confidence and belief that fuck, you're going to be all right because you've been through it that many times.
Yeah, bro.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Mean.
Nice,
Put 'em
bro.
pigs, baby.
Put 'em
There you go,
pigs.
Fano. Put 'em
Put 'em
pigs.
fakes.
I like that, bro.
Yeah.
Moving on to me. Rent got raised.
Oh, yeah, bro.
Oh,
yeah,
fuck.
bro. Yeah.
Bro, but it was only 6 months ago. Fuck, when was it? February, I think it was. They had just raised our rent then. And then we got the email yesterday, my missus was reading out to me, that they were going to raise it. So since we've been in that house, the rent has gone up $100.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
You're lucky, bro.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
lucky with the 100.
But then in the message, they they said, oh, we understand that, it might be difficult, but we just want you to know that it is quite difficult to get another rental out there. So they tried to add that little bit of fear factor to it.
Yeah.
But it is,
It is.
bro.
Oh, yeah, I know.
You don't want to live with 11 people in your house, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
like,
bro,
bro,
mother-in-law
yeah,
moved
the
in
village.
because she hasn't found a rental.
Yeah.
So it's not, I was saying, like, she moved into my games room. I've got all my little sporting memorabilia,
Yep.
my NBA cards or signs. She's like, what can I do with this? I was like, no, that stays there. You work around that.
Yeah.
I was like, can you just mind dusting the shelving every now and again? But she's like, you better fucking piss off. But, it's tough, bro. It's tough.
So yeah, that was my peak, and the peak was actually rallying all the boys down to our air locker for a session. That was good. I was quite surprised that that many boys showed up. We had 11 of us.
I
rock
seen
up.
some of the boys rock up.
Yeah.
Fucking hissing. It
And
was
some of the
good.
faces that I seen there, I was quite surprised, bro. I was like,
Oh, yeah, me in the gym in fucking 3 years. Fuck.
Telling you to come train with me for ages, bro. You have to. So no, and look, I really enjoyed that air locker session, bro.
I appreciate it. It was good having you boys in. Good energy.
good vibe. Although you did disrespect us, so you called us the Ellenbrook.
Someone from Ellenbrook.
Yeah, one, bro. Bros,
One person.
Yeah. All cousins, doesn't matter.
But anyways, moving on. All right, bro, into your story. What is your mission?
Oh, good question. I think it's very reflective of what I'm doing now. I've spoken about this recently, and I'll tell you one of the biggest epiphanies for me that happened in my life, and I don't know if you guys have been through something similar, but at some points, I know that the journey that I've been on, I've accepted who I am, but also being able to overcome my ego. And ego is not a negative connotation. It's just like we all battle with who are we? Who do we want to be perceived as? What do other people think? And I think the first thing for me was overcoming the persona of who I am. So if you just look at the history, we've all got a different pathway in life, but like I'm Sandor, I'm a footy player, I'm perceived this way, and you live through that and not negatively. Like I honestly think I've gone through my life in a respectful way, something that I'm proud of, but ultimately, like it dictates who you are, your decisions. So overcoming that was a big moment for me in my life. The second one was having the realization that my greatest power or asset is I truly believe that it's helping other people.
Yep.
Now, again, like this isn't arrogant. It's me saying like I have a bigger presence, a personality. You know, I can recognize that myself, and not to be arrogant, but I just feel like I have a presence, and I always have had that. And I think if I look back, maybe I just use that selfishly for my own benefit.
Yeah.
But now being exposed to the platform that I am, it becomes more and more obvious, and the realization becomes even more stronger that I can use that presence and the ability that I have to impact other people. The closest reflection I give you is like, remember being back at school? Now, if I could go back to school, I wasn't a bully, but I would have a laugh at everyone's expense. You know what I mean? Like I was the class clown. I was that kid.
Yep.
And like one of the greatest things, I would love to go back to school and just like use those powers for good. Never let anyone pick on that kid or that kid. You know what I mean? But we don't think like that when we're younger. But now I'm living through that adult version of that, where it's like I said, these different people get to come into the platform and I can have a genuine impact on their life. Health and fitness is the tool that gets them in, but it's the interactions. It's how you can make them feel. So for me, it's just to use my abilities of my personality, everything that I've been through. I sat there the other day, I did something on Instagram, and I was like, you know, there's a story that we want to tell, which is that mental health story where, you know, similar, I sort of told you boys before the class, similar to an ice bath. When you go into air locker, it is a challenge. Like, fuck, you're taking away the oxygen. It's a controlled stress environment. And you put people in that situation, it's uncomfortable. and you want to express to them like, hey, remain calm, lean into a little bit of uncomfortable. This is where the good shit happens.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, now I look back at all the shit I've been through. My career ain't a fairy tale. You know what I mean? It's been riddled with adversity. And I haven't had a bad life, but I feel like all the shit that I've gone through and I've experienced, I'm now really grateful for, because without that, would I really be able to relate and connect with people in this space? And that's the power that I have. So for me, it's like it's making a genuine impact on people through the platform that I have, not only to improve their health and fitness, but to fucking help change their life. There's a few things that I do day to day that I think about that takes no skill or talent. It's not special. It's just like my mentality on when things happen to me or how I attack life, how I treat people, adversity. And I'm like, if I could just get people, however it is, through this platform to think that way, or maybe change the way they react to certain situations, how fucking cool would that be? So
energies
that's the
are
journey that I'm on.
contagious.
Yeah.
Energies
It's
are very
like
contagious.
A little bit of optimism, take a positive approach, how you react to certain situations and adversity, how you are with other people, taking pride in what you do, like all these little characteristics and values that, you know, we value, but just trying to normalize that. And I just think the general population, which is what we would call most people who come into a gym, they haven't been exposed to team sport. They haven't been through, you know, maybe the life of growing up on, you know, more of the streets than the, you know, and all these things have dictated who we are and how we perceive the world. So like maybe if you can just, all those great things I was exposed to, you know, at the Storm, that culture, like why can't I give that to them? Like why, you know what I mean? So I just think about all those experiences I've had, and if I can share those and try and shift people's mindset, and now I've got this amazing platform to do it. Like where else am I going to rock up and meet 150, 200 new people and they're going to listen to everything I say? It's impossible. What am I going to run a conference? You know, like it's not going to happen. So that's the mission, and that's what I'm trying to achieve, bro.
Awesome, bro.
Like you said,
You're good at selling a passion, bro. Good at selling a passion, bro.
You're set on the mission, bro, and you made it clear. It's me.
Yeah, nice, bro. All right, to help us understand you a little bit better, can you tell us about your childhood, bro?
Yeah, it's good. I reflect
Wellington
on this stuff
born.
a lot. Yes, but pretty much just my whole life was in Australia.
We'll claim that though.
Wellington born, bro. Russell Crowe, Pavlova, Sandor Earl.
I'm happy to sit with that group.
The Pavlova.
It was the Pavlova that got me, not Gladiator. But nah, look, I don't know my dad, so I grew up with my mum. And my mum does a lot of work in mental health space now with a lot of footy players, a lot of different people. So if you know Jan, you know she's a hard woman. So she was a mum and a dad. You know, she loved footy more than I did. She was my first coach, Rugby League, when I was like 3-4 years old. So she just pushed me, and it's very different. You boys haven't lived in Sydney before, yeah?
Oh, the old man lived in Sydney for a bit, him and my little brother.
So I don't know what I can compare it to, but I grew up in basically Woolloomooloo, which is down the road from King's Cross. Which is,
I know where it is.
It's not the Woolloomooloo that we know now. So it was pretty random. And like, I look back at the world now, and you guys would reflect on it with your own kids and your own childhood. But, you know, at 7, she didn't drive. So at like 6 or 7 years old, so that's year 1, I would walk to the train station, catch a train and a bus to school by myself. And like, I just look back and I'm like, fuck, that's random. Like,
Different times now, though,
My young fella's 7. I'd never let that happen, bro. You know, like, in this day and age, bro.
It could never happen. It could never happen. So I think when you grow up like that and you've got someone who, I reflect now, I'm not like, we don't have a super emotional family, not a big family, not very close, but you look back now and I'm very grateful. Like, the things that my mum instilled in me, just that hard work, like she's the one. You'd be playing rugby and you just could not hear her voice. Like could not hear her
mum on
voice.
the sideline,
There's always that one.
As a kid, though, you're like, fuck, mum, shush.
And like you'd be at an athletics carnival at school and she'd be on the finish line yelling at you to run faster. You're coming first. Like she's just mad. And just that experience, I think, very. You know, you had to fend for yourself a little bit. You didn't have everything, but she made sure you had everything.
You had enough.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think having to live that sort of lifestyle at an early age just created this independence and a bit, like I said, that resilience. So, just growing up without the old man, but it doesn't really affect you because you don't know any better. But having
still
such
don't know
a
him,
strong
bro?
woman, still don't know.
Still don't know him?
You know what? Actually, I'll I'll tell you this. So this is a random story, but great for the podcast. So where were we? COVID. We got relocated to Queensland. This is my last year at the Storm, and I'm like, what am I going to do? Air locker was kind of popping up as an option, but then I'm like, do I stay with the Storm? Do I keep playing footy? But I was just exhausting all options real randomly. So when I got suspended at the first time, the only time when I was playing for Canberra, first thing I did was like, fuck, all right, I got to bounce. I got to get out of here. Like, I knew this rugby manager, rugby union, and I was like, right, get me a contract overseas. So he got me a contract to Section Palisade in the top division. Mad contract too.
Yeah.
And I was like, beautiful, signed it. They were filthy, obviously, when I got suspended. But I just figured like I'd be able to go and play rugby internationally. So when I was going to retire from the Storm, I was like, I'll look at all these different random rugby options and some international stuff. And one of the big advantages was if I could get my Hungarian passport, because it gives you it gives you an exception with the international. Yeah, because you're European.
Yep.
So it gives you an exception on the salary cap. So I was like, you know what, fuck this. I'm just going to try and see if I can find him, because I knew he lived in Queensland. So I went out to I just went on the internet and looked up like a private investigator. Anyway, so I said, hey, look, this is the situation. I think he lives here. I did some Googling. Anyway, they called me back 3 days later and they're like, oh, well, we found his son. Do you want the number? Do you want to make the contact? I was like, fuck, this is awkward. But I was like, who cares? I'll just do it. So I messaged and I was like, look, this is who I am. This is my name, blah, blah, blah. And then he was obviously a bit rattled. I knew I had 2 stepbrothers, these 2 guys, so I knew who they were. And then he reached back, and then finally, randomly and very awkwardly through some conversations, I got my dad's number, and I was like, oh, all right, I'll just do it. So I called him up, and I have my opinions of the man and the situation that I know, leaving my mum, wiping up the bank account. So it's not like I'm very fond of this person, but for the greater good of what I'm trying to achieve, I thought I'd call him up. So called him up, explained the situation. The vibe I got was that he was like, very apprehensive, thinking, is this a setup? Is he trying to get me in trouble? Does he want money or something like that? And I kind of just very politely explained, look, I just need your passport so I can prove that you're my dad so I can do X and Y. Anyway, sort of kind of didn't get back to me, and then he sent me a text message a week later after a conversation, and then he was like, oh, look, I've been advised I can't give you the passport. I was just like, this fucking idiot. Like,
Here we go again.
After all that time, just give me a photo of your passport, bro. Just let me in. And then that happened. I was like, that's just a great reflection of, I suppose, the person who he is. But I don't know. It didn't do it. It's not like I put anything to bed, because I do feel like I didn't have much to put to bed. But I suppose in some ways it was like, all right, well, I did that, got what I needed. Not that it was the result I wanted, but at least you can sort of, you know.
Just quickly, bro. So, like, is there any connection with the siblings?
Nah.
None, nothing, eh?
Nah.
No, and he didn't even try and reach out?
Nah, it's funny, like, and I have so much respect for the New Zealand culture, which I am a part of, but I suppose I've never really lived through.
Yep.
But I've never experienced that. I'm somewhat envious of what you guys have, which is beautiful. But the far now, I've never really experienced that, you know what I mean, in terms of that close. Not to take anything away from my relationships with my mum and whatnot, but yeah, never really experienced it, and it is beautiful. But so I suppose that flows on to like how much weight or how much care do I put into the siblings and other stuff. And I suppose everyone has their childhood and their traumas, and I suppose mine is maybe I'm too independent sometimes. I do think about that. I think that flows onto other areas of my life where it's like, you just got that tunnel vision and
Move quickly.
But you're also like, you are closed off, and you sort of just, I'll do it myself, because that's all you know. So I love these conversations where you're reflecting on the fly too.
Yeah. No, it's mean, bro. It's mean.
Good, bro. So footy, was that always the dream?
Always the dream, bro.
Yeah.
Like, started playing when I was 3-4 years old, under sixes as a start, and it's always what I want to do. Mum put me into every sport, so I played every sport. Rugby league, soccer, rugby union, and then boxing was a big one. But then as you get to that early teens, it's kind of like pick a sport. And rugby league was always the one.
Yeah.
And where is this, bro?
Where's this?
Where are you playing rugby league at this time?
So I always moved around. I sort of grew up in the eastern suburbs, played in that comp, and then lived in the inner west, like Leichhardt.
Yep.
So I grew up there. I went to mum sent me to boarding school when I was in year 7. So that was a rugby league school as well.
Yep.
So I went through that journey. But,
What's the name of that school, bro?
What's that? St. Greg's.
St.
Greg's College, yeah. Which was a wild experience. Like I was from the city. I lived an hour from the school. Everyone else was from the country.
Yeah.
That was tough at first. You know, we're just very different people at that age. So it was hard. And plus, you know, like school just wasn't my full focus. Like playing sport at school was, but you know, 2 hours of study every night in a classroom, bro.
Like the rest of us, bro.
The rest of us, bro. You know, eat our lunch, lunchtime, PE.
Even our last guest said the same thing.
And bro, I went to that school, like, grateful because I'm sure it had an impact on me, but
Where is that school situated?
Campbelltown.
Campbelltown.
Yeah.
Oh, Tigerstown, eh?
Yeah. But, you know, your shirt's untucked attention. Your tie's undone. It's just too much. It's too much for me.
100%.
So I think you resent school. You know what I mean?
I know what you're talking about. I went to all boys school back home in Christchurch. Yeah, shirt tucked in, tie, socks weren't pulled up. Boom, detention.
No Reddy's towels. We allowed our Reddy's towels.
no blonde
and that's
tips.
when like the Carlos Spencer phase, you know, when everyone had the little mohawk.
Yeah.
We allowed that, bro.
No Jonah fringes
Still
either.
try to crack it.
I went to a sports high school for my last year, Matraville Sports High School.
Matraville?
Yeah, and it was just like Roosters and Souths football team. And then I was like, when I went there, it was just wild. Like I went from, like I said, like the full kid in private school, rocked up day 2.
No one gives a fuck.
A couple of lads with their shirt off. Just, I was like, where am I? Rugby league was a period in school. I was like, this is fucking crazy. This is the
best.
But it was mad.
So when did like opportunities start presenting itself to you with like footy?
Yeah, I would say, you know, it's funny. Like I was always pretty good.
Yep.
And like solid player, hard worker, but I was never the one. There's this one moment I speak about when I was about 16, 17, and it was, you go through the development squads.
Yep.
And like at that age, I was with the Roosters. So you get the Kiwi boys coming over, you get the lads from Queensland, they're already getting paid. They're like the next superstars. And, you know, a lot of them never make it, you know, but you're in the room. And I remember there's a guy called Peter O'Sullivan. He might still be at the Warriors. He's a recruitment officer.
Yep.
And he was like, look, you know, 1 or 2 of you in this room will make first grade. And that was not directed at me, that conversation.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But at that time I was kind of like, oh, fuck, I'll show you. So like that was always my mentality. But
What position, bro? What position?
I was winger.
Just winger.
Yeah,
as
just
well?
wing.
Yep.
Always wing, really. But I think that last year of school when we won the main school competition, and then you start Toyota Cup, which was the big
20s,
thing there, bro. I was in the first year of Toyota Cup, so that was, you know, we were like rock stars then, which is ridiculous. But
Roosters?
Yeah, Roosters.
Yeah.
And we had a crazy team. Every team was stacked. You know,
Every team was stacked,
They're all
yeah.
first graders now, but. That was probably the moment where you start there, and then it starts to get a little bit more serious, and you're training with the NRL players and stuff like that. But before that, bro, it was really just, I feel like most times leading up to that was my own personal self-belief. There was not there's nothing drastic that was saying like, oh, you're going to be the one, you're going to be the man, you know. So,
Which plays a big part, bro. Self-belief, man.
100%.
That self-confidence.
100%. And I think like it's not so much about fake it till you make it. It's just like. It was part coping mechanism for me, but also like fuck it, whatever story I need to tell myself, then if it works for me, then so be it. Like no one else needs to believe it, but if I do, that's the thing that's going to get me from A to B. It's going to get me through the hard times. It's going to be my own self-motivation. So I feel like I've always had that, and I think I don't know how you develop that mentality, but it's kind of like if someone tells you can't, you're straight away thinking,
Fuck, I'll show you. Yeah.
Would you think it's maybe from like the support systems that you had from like your mum? Like
Yeah, I do look at that now. I think back on that, I'm like, you know, her son was everything. So like she did, I think subconscious, she's bigging me up to believe that I could be anything. And I don't think at the time I thought that, but now looking back, I was like, yeah, I reckon she had a big impact on a lot of the, you know, the reason I am the way I am. But only now am I looking back going, oh, fuck, you know what?
bro.
I think she played a big role.
Grateful,
I
yeah.
think,
Hence the screaming so loud at the bottom of the try line.
Exactly, right, exactly.
So you got signed by the Roosters. How old were you then, bro?
So I was turning 18. That was just out of school.
Straight out of school.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, lucky enough, like had a decent little Toyota Cup year. And then the second year I was able to debut. Lucky the Roosters were pretty much coming last, so that helped.
Yeah.
But,
Was that when Freddie was coaching?
Yeah, that was when Freddie was coaching. And that was mad. Like, I've got a photo, I think, when I was like 7 years old with Freddie. Freddie was my favourite player.
Yeah.
So just little moments like that. Like, it was cool. You know.
What year was that, bro?
That was 09.
09.
09, yeah.
Iwi Hodaki?
Yeah, he was there. He was there. He was
my
there,
boy
yeah.
from school.
Yeah, he was the man. He was there. I played. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I played in the Maldives with him when we in 2010.
Yep.
Yeah, he's
boys from Alpera.
He's a good lad.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
What's he doing now?
Oh, he's back in Whangarei, bro. Yeah,
nice.
5 kids and
Yeah, wow.
like doing really well.
Yeah,
Doing really well, bro.
that's
But
right.
his dream was just to go home,
Yeah.
start his little like it's like a contracted business sort
Yeah.
of thing, bro. Have heaps of kids. That was his thing, bro.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Bloody whangarei, eh?
Oh, I went back and played rugby for the Taniwha.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, for a little bit. Get back to the story, sorry, bro.
We Roosters. Yep.
Yeah, so debuted like so just moments like everything you do, like a moment like that debuting is a reflection of everything you've been through. It's not even that moment. It's like, fuck, finally got there. It's like that's the one thing you wanted to do.
Years
you
of
know?
hard work.
Yeah, and Freddie was a coach, so like it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, and I after that when I got suspended, I went through this whole, I suppose, that realization. The best thing about traveling was realizing how insignificant my situation was in rugby league was. Like when I went away and travelled straight away when I got suspended, like no one knew who I was. No one knew what rugby league was. No one gives a shit. So I was like, fuck, it's actually a good realization to be like, you think the world around you is everything, but really it's a nice thing to realize there's so much more out there. And I think that contributed to breaking out of that bubble and realizing there's a lot more, and you meet so many different people from all different walks of life, and it just opens up your perspective. You know what I mean?
That bubble's what's putting the pressure on.
Yeah, 100%. And again, I think you live through that story because that's who you are. That's your
Sydney too.
persona. Yeah, Sydney definitely doesn't help. It's interesting. Like place like I live in Newcastle, which is pretty much it's like a small Perth. You know.
Yeah.
But see, I don't think I could live in Sydney again. It just doesn't align. Like I feel like you guys would be
Too
the same.
busy.
Yeah, you guys would be the same. I think it comes with maturity, but you get a little bit ruthless with who you surround yourself with, the energy.
I'm hearing that word fake quite often, bro. I don't know because I don't have that experience, but I'm hearing that.
Yeah.
Quite cutthroat,
Yeah.
quite fake. Yeah.
100, and it's just like like you said. I think everyone's trying to be something, and I think about it all the time. That's a tiring way to live, bro. You know what I mean? Like, I think authenticity these days, stuff like you're doing, stuff like we're all trying to do, that's the way forward. That's the rare quality to have these days. Just being true to yourself.
That's it, bro. That's it. So from your Roosters days, you went over to the Penny Panthers, eh?
Yes.
That's,
Well, you look at the Roosters. So this is where the roller coaster starts. Well, it kind of already started, but this is another turn in the roller coaster. But I think after my debut game of all games, we went out to a nightclub in the city.
As you do.
Yeah, of course. Celebrate you're the man.
Probably
The cross.
thinking
You
you're
knew
on.
the cross. Yeah, you knew the cross.
Exactly.
Was this after your debut?
Yeah, the worst. So
I'm
we're
on
sitting
here,
in this
yeah.
horseshoe table, big night out, and I was with like Jake Friend, Mitch Pearce, these
Yeah.
boys. Like they're I'm not them. I just played one game. Anyway, we're all there. They're throwing ice and doing dumb shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, these lads get up, and I was on the end of the booth, and I was like, boys, there's like 4 of us. Like, let it go. Anyway, he pushes me. I push him back. He throws this punch, and then I've pushed him off. He's taken down his girlfriend. Everything's fine. We get kicked out of the club, and then someone runs up and's like, someone's punched his missus, blah, blah, blah. All this stuff happened. And it was a big drama the next day. Front page of the paper. We're in the police station. I was like, I just debuted. Fucking torture. Anyway, nothing ended up happening, but all publicity isn't always good publicity.
Attacking,
as they
yeah,
say.
yeah.
Oh, wasn't it the chairman's daughter?
Yes.
The CEO's daughter or whatever?
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
It was just.
I do remember that.
It was amazing. The luck, my luck. But anyway, got off that, played a few more games, but kind of damage was done. So I'm 19, just debuted. I'm thinking, how good's this? I'm sweet. Didn't get contracted.
Yeah.
And I was like, how did this happen? You know what I mean? So anyway, I'm trying to get a club, trying to get my manager to hustle. October goes by, November goes by, December. We're into December. I don't have a club, and I'm like, how have I gone from here to here at that age? You know what I mean?
From your peak to pit.
Here,
The
fra-
CEO,
proper
bro.
peak to
The
CEO.
CEO. He was talking, bro.
100%. So I literally started doing my own preseason, which this is the reason I always think about this. Like I go through, we all go through shit, but after it's over, I'm like, fuck, that was shit, but it was a mad story.
Yeah,
Like, this is- You know what I mean? I always think about that. Like, I always look back at it, and I got heaps of mad stories about the time they were shit.
Yeah.
Like, bro, I'm doing my own
Memories.
preseason. Yeah, bro. I'm down doing my own preseason, going to the gym 3 times a week, training on the field by myself.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's
bro.
like, at the time, it sucked. But looking back, it's like, that's gangster. No one's done that.
Yeah.
No one's doing that. And then January comes along. I finally get a call from Matty Elliott, who was the Penrith coach.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, he goes, and Freddie sort of teed it up. He said, come out and meet me. So I went to the Penrith office, walked in, and I remember he had this whiteboard, and there was 11 names on it. They were all the outside backs. He goes, willing to give you an opportunity. You can come and start with reserve grade, Windsor Wolves. He's like, you're at the bottom of that list. You play better than these guys, you'll get a start here. And I just, again, one of those moments I remember going, fuck yes,
Yeah.
let's go.
That's all I need,
that's
just
exactly
to-
what I'm going
just
to do.
to sniff, and I'm
Exactly.
fucking
Just
gonna take
someone give you a little
advantage.
bit of belief, and I'm on. So I was like, sweet. So I was living in the Northern Beaches at the time, and I was driving out to Windsor like an hour and a half, training on a cow paddock. And I was like, okay, back to reality here. Started training, and we played a trial game. They pulled me out of that trial game and gave me a little run against Para in the first grade trial. So I was like, that's cool. Anyway, 2-3 games in, I was, playing out of my skin. And the assistant coach came up to me and said, look, we want to sign you to a first grade contract at Panthers, which at the time was probably 25 grand. And you could
Which is
train
fuck all
full-time.
these days, eh?
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah.
I was like, you can train, we want you to train full time. And then by round 17, I debuted, and then we had a run into the semi-final. So that's that roller coaster, but fucking cool, bro. Like literally doing preseason training by myself, and then get a crack, make it happen, and then for at least that year, the rest is history. So it's pretty cool.
Were you trying for something up in the Northern Beaches, bro, or you just thought anything will do at the time?
I was living at my manager's house.
Oh,
that's
true.
why. That's why. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's why I was.
That's
living
a fair trick, bro.
Yeah,
from
bro.
there all the way out west.
torture.
Fuck.
Torture. I don't know what I was driving then either, but it wouldn't have been great.
But even to do all that training by yourself, out on the footy park, out on the roads, out in the gym by yourself, builds that mental fucking
The 1% no one sees,
1%ers, bro.
bro.
That no one
100%.
ever sees.
On this subject here, I went to the Melbourne Storm and I was around Billy Slater, Cameron Smith. Like, you want to talk about
bro,
making your career insignificant? That'll do it.
Yeah.
Now these guys have like the greatest career you can think of, so I'm never going to have that. I don't have that fairy tale story, but I have to look back and go, look, there's that situation. There's a couple more that we can talk about. I had nearly 6 years in between games of first grade and a knee reconstruction thrown in that. Like, I love them and they're the GOATs, but I don't reckon they would get through the shit that I went through. So I'm proud of that. Like, it's a ridiculous story, but like ultimately, like I'm proud of the shit that I've overcome. Would I have liked it to take in a different path and have a little bit more of a decorative career, this and that? And I had my moments. I had some great periods where I played and had some great experiences. But ultimately, like, as much as it's a ridiculous story, fuck, it's. Like I said, it's pretty cool, and I'm very proud of what I've been able to overcome because
bro.
It shaped you. It shaped you into who you are today.
It is.
So
And I don't
You're
think
moldy.
many
You're
could.
moldy.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
Just a hoary telling a story, brother.
That's right.
All right, bro. And then you went on to the Raiders where you played majority of your NRL games.
Yes.
There's a bit of mischief at that club as well. during that
right.
era.
Yeah.
Here we go
Story
again.
time.
You wouldn't believe
Story
it.
time.
So after that, had a mad year. Everything went fucking unreal. My shoulders were corked. Like they never dislocated, but they were real bad. And I had this idea that like what I'd do, because I was off contract, I would come in, play like few games, play well, and then get my shoulders done. So I only really, at the time, the doctor knew and he didn't say anything, which is so random. The club doctor, like he knew I got the MRIs and I needed 2 shoulder recos. And I sort of said, nah, don't worry about it. Don't say anything. Like I'll just play on. And he didn't say anything, which is so random. But anyway, I get into the year and I was struggling. My shoulders were corked. Like for me to push away or tackle, you'd get like these subluxes and I was just in that much pain.
Is this at Penrith, bro?
Yeah, Penrith the next year. And, then I started to pop in and out of first grade. And then I was just like, I have to get my shoulders done.
Yeah.
So got the double reconstruction, 6 weeks, out of the sling, 6 weeks, straight in. It was torture. If you've seen me when I was younger, and there's lots of random photos, you can get a calendar photo of me playing footy. I was big. Like I'd ripped into the weights, you know what I mean? And I looked like a 12-year-old boy after that, bro. I was 6 months, no weights. Yeah, really? You should see what happens to your body. It's ridiculous. I was like, it was bad. And, made my way into the next year trying to come back. And again, I was in and out of first grade. It was tough. We had a new coach, Ivan Cleary, and, you kind of get your moment to make an impression. Anyway, I got this random call one day from David Ferner, the Raiders coach. Yeah. Or actually, the captain at the time, David Chillington, called me and said, Ferns is going to call you. And again, I think it was back to what you said, bro. I think it was a little bit of faith. Someone showed in me. Yep. And he was like, look, we believe you could be a good asset here. We'd love to get you across, that mid-season transfer. And I was just like, oh, this is unbelievable. Like, this is exactly what I need. Just give me a chance.
Fresh chance.
Fresh start. Someone who's got a little bit of belief in you. And then, boom, it sort of happened. Gus was at the club at the time. Gus called, gave me the all clear. Went over there on the Tuesday. I was staying in a motel in the city in Canberra. That was on the Wednesday. I got there and he said, look, we're just going to play you on Saturday at the Raiders first grade. And then... the boys were mad. It was a young club at the time.
What year, bro?
That was 2012. 2012, yeah.
Ferguson.
Yeah, Ferguson, Dugan, Croker. It was a mad young team.
Cruisers on the roof, yeah.
That's right.
Not yet.
And Milf?
Yeah, Milf was coming up. And
he was hissing too,
he was
back then.
Yeah. And, we won that first game, and then me and Fergo just struck up such a mad friendship. And I'm so grateful for that. Like, then we were coming 13th. We ended up coming 6th, made the major semi, and we had a ball. Like, that was just that moment where you run out onto the field, and this really never happened, but I was just having fun. Like it was just like everything you touched went to gold, and it was just so perfect. And we had such a good relationship. I think we ended up scoring like 30 tries in 15 games. We were just taking the piss. It was just that fun.
Was that David Campese at half?
Yeah, he was there too.
He was at half,
Yeah. And
I think that's the year he made New South Wales too.
Yeah,
he was
it
on.
might have been actually. Yeah, we had a good run, and it was just good fun. Like I'm glad I got to experience that sort of moment. Yeah. But then the next year, all the shit come out in the media, and then that was fucking hell. So that was torture. And then we ended up on the roof. Luckily, I wasn't involved in that photo with the cruisers, but
you were on the roof though.
I was on the roof. I actually went to recovery. Yeah. I actually went to recovery and
met up with the boys later.
And I don't care. No, this story's long gone. We're all retired, but I remember coming back from recovery, and Dukes and Fergo weren't there. So I was like, big dramas going on, and I was just like, don't know, not sure, like don't know where they are. Like I lived with Fergo and Jackie Whiten. It's in this house, and like so anyway, come home. I was there for about 5 minutes, and obviously Fernsey had just followed us home. So Fernsey rocks up, and if you know Dave Ferner, like he's a bad man. Like I reckon he'd punch the shit out of every one of the boys in that team. Like
he's a big bugger, right?
Big and loves boxing. Like maybe Jackie Whiten's the only one he's also a bad man. Yeah. But he rocks up, and I was just like, when I seen it, I was like seeing God. I was like, oh my God, he can't believe he's in the house. He walked straight in, looked at him, and Dukes just started spraying him. He's like, leave us alone. I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe. Yeah,
Dukes was.
Yeah, I was like, I can't believe this is happening. Like it was just like a movie. I was like, is he gonna like try and stink him here? Anyway, he walked out, but I'll never forget that moment. I was just like, fuck, this is wild.
Always having fun on and off the field.
Yeah. Did he follow you there, bro?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's not hard to find out where we live, but I was just like, I could not believe that he rocked up, and then that happened. But that was a tough moment for those boys as well. I think they were going through a lot of stuff, and but it was just one of those special moments where you look back and in terms of like what you would want out of footy, again, not the fairy tale, but to experience that on a footy field, that just like, I suppose like euphoria. It was just so cool to watch. You guys have done stuff and played sport. Like a lot of the time, it comes with a lot of overthinking, a lot of pressure, a lot of nerves. Yeah. This was just running out like laughing. You're having fun. Like to experience that at that level is very cool. Yeah.
So the next thing that came was definitely a pit. Was the whole doping and drug trafficking. that you were
Yes,
accused of.
drug trafficking. Yes.
What was the drug?
So it was a peptide, CJC. That's what it was. Now,
Which does
which is supposed to aid in recovery.
okay.
Same as the Essendon boys.
Yes, same as the Essendon
we had
boys.
Leroy Jeter
Yeah.
on the potty, bro.
Yeah.
He played for
Yeah.
Essendon. Yeah, he went through that.
Oh,
as
he
well.
went through it as well.
Yeah.
It's one of the really biggest bullshit scandals to get around, you know what I mean? Like it's wild. There's so many moving parts to it, but at the time, like first and foremost, no one knew what it was. No one knew what peptides were.
They weren't testing for it in Aussie.
They weren't testing for it, but it also wasn't banned. And he's a bit of a mad scientist, Stephen Day. He worked for multiple clubs, so you can do the math. What wouldn't have gone on there?
Yeah.
So like it is what it is. But ultimately, I think the timing of it, being a bigger scandal it was, I was kind of lone wolf at Penrith, and really just kind of took the brunt of it, and it was just a heavy experience. But to go, it was 3 years later. I'd been tested like fucking 14 times.
3 years later.
Yeah, it was 3 years later. It came out in the media because he got done with affiliation with bikies. So there was all these text messages, and there just happened to be this text message saying, "I'm working with rugby league player Sandor Earl on his shoulder recovery, blah blah blah." And then that's how it all came about. Because it was news to me. I literally was watching the news. I was like, "Oh shit." Stephen, oh, okay, fuck, I know that guy. And I was like, that's how I found out. And I was like, fuck. So, of course, you try and distance yourself from the situation. So I was like, nah, that's not me. Like, that's not what I was involved in. Like, surely not. Obviously, I was injured. He was working at the club. The club knew about it, paid for it. Yes, I went to a doctor off-site, but it was a clinic with normal people in it.
You trust the club. You trust
There
who
was,
they provide.
and
Yeah.
obviously I got the information. And in my head, of course, I'm not to be naive. I was like, I would have got tested while that was happening, and I was like, look, if there was ever any doubt, I'm doing the drug test with Asada. So if there's ever any doubt, and of course nothing happened, so I was like, I'm not gonna give it any
Safe.
thought.
You'd assume that. Oh, fuck,
Of
it should be
course.
sweet.
And I know he's working at other clubs. We all know that. So I'm like, what am I, supposed to expect? And me taking the supplement from the clinic that he was in with the doctor, and then that being done as drug trafficking. I'm sure you guys understand the meaning of trafficking. So I was like, that's unfair. That's shit. I'm happy to take responsibility. Like there was at no point. And anything you've seen or heard around it, like at no point was I pointing fingers. I was happy to take responsibility, but that hurt.
Yeah, the media would have definitely, blowing it up, of course. But I think it's when it starts reflecting on who you are as a person, which is not true. Like that's when it probably hit the most. So it's a lot of bullshit.
That's when it hurts, 100%,
a lot of bullshit.
Bro.
Yeah.
And I remember first time I got away because I'd been to Thailand on a trip. There's like a awesome training area there where everyone goes for these training holidays, heaps of gyms. So I'd been there once in the pre-season, so I was like, I'm just going to bounce, which is probably the right thing to do given the craziness of the scrutiny. And that day I was at the airport, I was like, everyone's looking at me. And then the guy sat next to me with the paper and I'm on the front, Sandor Earl, drug dealer. I was like, this guy's sitting next to me.
Get me on this
Opens up the
fucking
double
flight.
page, opens up the double page spread. I was like, this is torture.
Hey mate, can you just sign this, please?
So yeah, that was a wild experience. Like I don't think it was. I can handle, and the public perception started to turn around as more information comes out.
Yep.
I got to go on Channel 9 and do an interview.
Footy show?
Yeah, the
they
footy
played
show.
on the footy show.
Yeah, that was a game changer really because it humanised everything.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
otherwise, before that, it was just, and it is what it is. This is the world we live in. But everyone was making their opinions and their
Social media.
perspectives, off what they were reading, and what you're reading is never good. So like, it humanised the whole thing. It was like, oh, okay, hang on, and it's a real person telling a real story. Again, I think Australians in particular really connect with someone who is honest, takes responsibility, takes that angle rather than tries to point fingers or is not genuine. So I feel like it just really took a big turn. So that was a massive piece for me.
What was the outcome of the whole doping thing? How many years did you get?
4 years, bro.
4
Yeah,
years.
long time.
Yeah, fuck
Played-
yeah.
The mental fix of getting that 4 year.
Look, and I reflect on this all the time, and it goes back to our initial conversation. I've been around a lot of different things, a lot of different people, and my mum, but I'm very grateful, and for whatever reason, but taking responsibility for it a little bit. I just have never really experienced or let myself get to that point where, like, it you know, with depression. And I understand it. I definitely appreciate it. But I don't know. It's got to be a reflection of my childhood and that independence. I'm not willing to let myself go there. So like, mate, and you could argue.
That's a choice.
Yeah, it is a
It's
choice.
bro.
But I talk about this all the time. It's literally a 50-50 choice too. Like, if you could, right now, if we could think about some adversities that we've been through, and in one hand we've got the depression, the heartache, I'm going to live through this story, I'm going to tell everyone about it, and it's going to like overcome me, or can I find some sort of story or narrative
Silver
or
lining.
optimistic perspective, and go down that route? Well, when it comes down to those two choices, I know which one I'm taking.
Yep.
And I've somehow mastered the art of that.
Yep.
And yes, initially, like even when I came back after 5 years and I tore my ACL 3 weeks into training, like that hurt.
Yep.
Yep.
You know, I don't just get to come up with a story in 30 seconds on that one. Like that probably took a couple of days, but ultimately, like these are your two choices, bro, which one are you going to take? And it's that simple to look at. Like it really is. Your thoughts will dictate your reality, like of any situation, of any interaction, and it's a simple concept. And sometimes people will say it's easier said than done, and this and that, but like it literally is. How are you going to see something, think about something? And like hack that, and you're well on your way to living a far better life.
That's it, eh? It's the same goes with this podcast. You know, the bro had a vision, and you know he chose to go down this path, and you know opportunities. And we're going to hit those. You know,
but it's freedom too, I reckon, bro. Like I think it starts with acceptance. So like, let's just accept straight off the bat that not everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows. You know what I mean? I think people who have these expectations of how things are going to be, they're setting themselves up for disaster, failure. Yeah. So I live through a very realistic perspective that like, well, I'm going to make mistakes. Sometimes things are going to be shit. Like I know this is going to happen, and it's not. That doesn't mean I'm negative. I just know. So when it does happen, I'm good there. I haven't built up this expectation that everything's going to be fine, and if it's not, fuck, the world's going to crumble. So with that comes some freedom and control. And then your reaction to certain situations or environments or people that is not in your control, like when it comes down to it, what choice are you going to make, how are you going to react, how are you going to think about it? And it's like, these are the concepts that I'm talking about. We're not sitting here talking about anything that's like revolutionary or game changing, but the simple concepts like, can we consistently live our life this way? Like if I remember, it's a very simple one, but I remember these launch weeks, right? Not all of them, like I'll be transparent, not all of them you rock up and they got a mad team, they got mad pre-sale numbers, everything's perfect. And there's been times where I rock up, I'm like, fuck, this is going to be so hard. They don't have this, don't have that. And straight away I'm living through this story. How do you think I'm going to go into that situation? Of course, I'm already thinking it's going to be hard. I've already got this negative mindset. Yeah. And I know it's a simple concept, but like, fucking change that. Just go into it with like, no, you know what? This, and this. And it's a choice to you. You can either choose to tell everyone this negative story so they can be like, nah, it's going to be okay. Or you can change the narrative in your head. And I think if I'm very mindful of saying I'm busy, for example. That's a real simple example. But like all these things that you say, start to just have the awareness of everything you say, everything you tell people. Are you living through this story of like, I got no time and I got all this shit. So like, if you can just try and hack that, I feel like I've found that's a very, very simple but very powerful tool to change my thoughts and the things that come to me and things that happen around me.
I need help with that one, bro.
It's like you say, bro, you know, we pivot, we move on. You know what I mean?
Adapt and overcome, bro. Adapt and overcome.
Yeah, hard.
Bro, I sit here and I listen to you talk, and something that I guess I've noticed, especially through social media and just hearing you, bro, is you know, your mindset is. How have you been able to adopt the mindset you have, bro? Yeah,
well, like this is the thing. This is why I'm so passionate, because I don't feel like I'm not Tony Robbins. It's like, you know what I mean, bro?
But you are to someone though, bro.
Yeah, but
you are.
What
Tony
I'm
Robbins
saying is I'm thinking these things. I'm like, these are just normal things. Like I don't see it being out of reach for anyone. Yeah. That's why I'm so passionate about my interactions with the general population, to try and get them to see things this way.
See it that way as well.
You know, like these aren't wild concepts, but I also reflect on all of my interactions with people, and I'm way less judgmental these days. And judgment can come in like you boys might work with someone and be like, "What's fucking wrong with this guy? Like, he doesn't give a fuck
Every day, bro.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. But
They're
now
all Maldives too.
But my reflection on that is they don't have the awareness. Like, have they been exposed to what I've been exposed to? Have they had a mentor? Have they been around a great culture? Like, I've been through a lot of experiences that have dictated who I am. So the judgment goes away when I'm like, you know what, until they have had the experience or the awareness or been given that advice, can't really judge them. I would judge them if they had, and then what they did with it, I would judge that person. Like if someone makes a mistake. If you make a mistake or fail, I'm not going to judge you if you tried, but I'll judge your reaction. Like, did you give a shit? Did you try and learn or ask the question or you know what I mean? I'll judge your reaction. Yes.
Who did you blame?
Did you take responsibility? I'll judge your reaction to that. So that's another thing that I'm very mindful of. But back to your original question, I think just at some point, I'm very grateful for the mindset that I have, but it just really does come with awareness. Like
Awareness, yeah.
you're constantly going to be battling, you know, of course, you know, the situation that I'm in, I get a lot of feedback, a lot of good, but some bad. And it's always that little ego check. Like no one wants to hear anything. Yeah. But if you have an open mind, you're open to criticism and constructive feedback. And more often than not, you accept that like, I don't really need to be told if I'm doing something good because it doesn't improve me. It doesn't force any growth. And if you just have this awareness and open mind and you're constantly reflective and thinking about things, right, your progression is through the roof. It's rapid. So, I just think my experiences have dictated it. I've got an open mind and acceptance and just very reflective. So, but the main thing is the things that we're talking about, I just don't think they're that special. I think they're very simple. And oftentimes you boys will be the same. You probably think a lot of this stuff, but then someone will say it, you'll read something or someone that we listen to will say it and it just lands. So whatever that is, but I would just love these simple practices and habits that we get into. I think
they're not common, bro.
No,
they're definitely not common. And they need coaches like yourself, someone that could portray it in a real positive light too, bro. So it's very uncommon.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a good point. That's a good point. That probably goes back to that original mission. Like, you just need more people to spread the word, and because all of these people that we're talking about that don't have that commonality, they just haven't been exposed to it. They didn't have the awareness. So like, this is another example of just trying to spread the message. We're all trying to lead with a bit of vulnerability and be authentic, and someone will listen. It will land for someone, you know?
Yeah,
100%, bro. What is this Melbourne Storm like? How big of a part have they played in your life, bro?
Oh, bros.
The Melbourne Storm. I've heard about you talk about, I've heard you talk about the Melbourne Storm quite a lot. Craig Bellamy, the culture. How big of a part have they played, bro?
And again, this might be a story that I've just made up in my own head, and it probably is, but I reflect. I went there. I remember this is a pretty crazy story. I think I told this in Bloke in a Bar, but so how do we I'm going off topic, but I'll come back. It's a good story. This is what we're here to do.
We love it, bro.
And the bro talked about Thailand. So I actually got deported from Thailand.
Yeah.
Which is a really wild story. But and I was in a detention center and everything, not for doing anything bad, just literally a 1-day overstay on my visa. Anyway, taking all that into account, I had one book with me, and it just so happened to be Craig Bellamy's book, right? And I always wanted to go to the Melbourne Storm because I was like, fuck, you got one last chance to do this. Everyone knows, every footy player's like, fuck, if I go there, like it's the golden ticket. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you're surrounded by greatness. It's just like,
I'm guaranteed finals footy.
Oh, exactly. That too. And you're just surrounded by the best. So I remember reading his book, and when it came time for me to go back to the Melbourne Storm, I just knew I didn't want to get my manager to talk to him. I didn't want to send. So I wrote a letter to Craig and just said, this is who I am. This is what I've been through. This is what happened. And this is what I think I can offer to the club. And he got in 3 days later, he gave me a call and he's like, mate, let's catch up at a cafe next week. And first of all, I was like, fuck yes, how good's this? Like he's actually got in contact with me. Went to the cafe and he was sort of sussing me out. And, you know, I've been training my ass off. So, like, I was in good nick. And he was like, look, basically half an hour conversation, he finished, look, I've spoken to the powers that be and we've got a contract for you. We want to give you a shot at the club. This is the first time I'd just spoken to him. And I was like, and you want to go back to that belief? I was like, far out. That lights a fire. I was like, I'll do anything for this guy. You know what I mean? I'll run through a wall. So that's how it started. And to come full circle, I went to Melbourne Storm, like Sully and Josh Adokar, the wingers. Like, I'm not going there for a free run. I had other opportunities at clubs where I would have got a shot straight away. But in reflection, the journey that I'm on now, and again, it wasn't a fairy tale career. I made some amazing relationships and friendships. I was exposed to a great culture, and it's again shaped me who I am as a person. But that was just meant to happen. And I didn't get the fairy tale stories of like getting in there and having all these moments in my career. But fuck, what I was exposed to culturally and. It's like a dream come true. If you boys could think about in anything you've done, work, sport, what the dream culture would be, like an environment where everyone's got the same mentality and attitude, everyone wants to be great, everyone holds people accountable.
Everyone's bought in.
Oh, bro, and so it was just like, and I'm aware of that. Like I love that. I love that cultural aspect. And I was like, bro, it's just dream come true. It was honestly the best thing ever.
Yeah. Craig Bellamy, bro, had any sprays from him?
Yeah.
What's a Craig Bellamy spray like, bro?
It's literally a lot of spray. A lot of spray, a lot of fluid. But no, he's an angry man, but very passionate.
Yep.
He has this amazing dynamic and ability. Like, for example, this is the polar opposite. It's like he's ruthless and aggressive when you do something wrong, or like his approach to you when it comes to football. But in terms of like, he'll also play a father figure role. So, and he has such an aura that like you only take it with respect.
Yep.
So whatever he does, all these sprays, like, you know, when I did my knee, I was fucking shattered, obviously. And I was in the doctor's office and they said, yeah, you've torn your ACL. He calls me straight away, gives me the phone. And he's like, look, mate, I know this is probably the hardest thing you've ever been through, but like, if you still want to play football, your contract's done for next year. Like, I was off contract. He's like, you've got a contract for next year. You don't have to worry about a thing. So if that's where you want to go, you just focus on looking after yourself and your rehab. Again,
how good's that, bro?
It's insane. It's insane. Like, to put that, that's I know that's like footy and whatever, but take that into any experience in anyone's who's listening's life and imagine someone did that. It's like, fuck me. You know what I mean? Like, that's a crazy experience for someone to do that for you. So like, that's the kind of relationships he fostered. And I know he had small moments like that with all of the players.
Yeah.
So when you've got that relationship, it goes beyond him being just your footy coach, because genuinely, and he does have an aura. Like you already respect him, but I think anyone, if whatever he said, you listened, and anyone would do anything for him. So like, to be in that environment, that's fucking, that's
bro.
mad.
Awesome, bro. What's the biggest takeaway from footy that you apply to your everyday life, bro?
Biggest takeaway? I think I would say, and I experience this now, especially being very grateful for the opportunity I have post-footy. But the boys are not exposed to very much. You know, they don't have any passions. But if you want to be the best at what you do, it's all encompassing. So I get it. But it's not. Rugby league's pretty old school. It's not a lot of mentoring. They're leaving football, and maybe 5% have got some cash in the house and everything else. But otherwise, like, what are you going to do? You're either coaching kids or you're in support work, which I'm not. There's nothing against that, but I'm saying, like, so I think I'm just very grateful that I was able to have an opportunity after football, but develop the skills of, like, without sport, without rugby league, I wouldn't have gone through the adversities. So I wouldn't have the resilience. I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't have experienced, all of the things that come with being an athlete, which is like work ethic, working with other people, setting a goal, achieving it, not achieving it, and then having to figure it out. Like, all of the attributes of who I am and who anyone wants to be was developed by being in sport and being around that culture. And then Melbourne Storm was just times fucking 5,000 because it was just the accountability. I go back to, again, I've used that analogy of being in school. When we were in school, there was that kid who would always put their hand up and ask questions, and they were the teacher's pet,
Yep.
Like they were the nerd or the odd one out. And when you go to and I was kind of like that in my career through football. Like if you did extras or you tried to eat well or you trained a little bit harder, you try hard. And it would be that culture.
Yeah.
We know that culture, bro. That's a shit culture, but that's normal. You go to the Melbourne Storm, if you weren't doing that, you were the odd one out.
Yep.
So it was like the complete role reverse. So imagine how good that feels when you're that way.
Bro, that's awesome. Because the cuzzy's Adam Blair.
Yes.
And when he come to Perth, we're going to go pick him up after training on the Thursday and go to dinner. And we're waiting for the boys to finish training. And the cuzzy and everyone, Jeff Lima and all of that, were just sitting around the outside of the field. And I thought, what the hell's going on here? And it was only Cameron Smith in the middle of the field. And he had set all the trainers up, bro. And he'd do 10 hits on this tackle bag. And I was watching all the boys sit around the field, bro. They weren't moving. And Cam Smith would just hit this bag and he'd do some 40-20s, bro. Then he'd be doing the goal kicking. And then this was about 20 minutes, bro, after training. And then Adam come over to us. We're just sitting in the seats. And I said, why didn't you fellas leave? And he goes, no one's allowed to leave training unless that last person comes off the field, bro. And it was only Cam Smith. It was only him just sitting out there hitting tackle bags, 40-20s, and the rest of them were just sitting around the field waiting for him to finish training, bro.
Crazy, yeah.
That's
the sort of shit. And obviously, if you're that way inclined, it's just like this is the best. Man, Billy Slater, he's the epitome. Like we see American athletes, and he's the Kobe Bryant of Australia.
Yeah, right.
In the detail, was he?
Oh, bro. And it's no wonder why Queensland are winning.
Yeah.
He would have revolutionised Origin. Yep. He'd be training with them, running the plays. He's so strategic. No one watches more video than him. First to training, last to leave. Like an absolute freak. And the intensity that he trains at, I'm so grateful to even have experienced that. I remember one time, two things I remember that stand out for me. We were doing MAS runs, so 60-metre runs. You do it on the time, back and forth. And there was a young kid, actually, Tino. Tino. And I love Tino, and look what he's flourished to.
Yeah.
He's a weapon, bro.
He would say the gift that he's been given in his career was to start at the Melbourne Storm. It set him up for life. It would have dictated who he is as a person.
Bro, crazy.
But there was, sprinting on the final effort of the thing. It's that's like blasphemy. If you're going to sprint, you want to win the first three, not the last one, and come and be a busted ass for the first 9 reps. And he just sprayed him, and I was like, fuck. Because it was player-to-player accountability. Most time the coaches didn't even say anything. Yep. Jesse and Kenny Bromwich, they're the GOATs. I look up to them. They're
Rewa.
Yeah, they're idols. They're you want to talk about, if we were to talk about the idols of, say, multi-culture, those two are the ones. They're gangster with the way they do stuff and the leadership skills they have and the way they carry themselves. And so to see that, I was like, wow. And then the next one was Billy Slater after a game. And I lost this video. I need to try to get it again. But I think he dropped 3 or 4 balls that game. Anyway, you come out to training. He's there half an hour before we get onto the field with an assistant coach. And he caught 50 bombs before training. He's the Australian fullback. Yeah. You know what I mean? And we're all just cruising into training. He's been out here for half an hour catching bombs. And I was like, whoa, there's levels. Yeah. You know what I mean? I was like, fuck. You think you're having to go and working hard. Yeah. And then you see the best player doing that. Bruh.
Just different, there's those people that are just built different.
And think about what that does to everyone around you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everyone has to level up.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just told the boys, before you hang around 5 useless bastards, you will be the 6th.
So true, bro. So true.
That's it, bro. All right, bro. So let's move on to the reason why you're in Perth.
Yes.
Air Locker. What is it for listeners that don't know?
So we are group training in simulated altitude. So team training environment, sort of circuit based. And, group training is very popular right now. We've got plenty of brands that are doing it really well and have paved the way. First CrossFit, then the F45s, Body Fit, Fit Stop. We just come in with something so unique, so special, taking something that has been utilised by athletes and high performance environments for years And our founder Roman Brady, always also a Māori, he through a concept in mining, figured out a way that you could bring altitude commercially for the right price to a bigger space, 150 square meters, and create a group training product. So we've got a program and an equipment pack that probably not a lot of people know about yet. It's like, it's a cool program. It's like for everyone. The equipment pack means we can do all the strength, the resistance training, the conditioning. And, I think there is some fears about like, what's going on in there? Like, what are they doing? And are we for athletes? But what we've done is we've just taken an environment that's scientifically backed, been researched and proven for years and years. And it can support your training to get the best possible results for both mental and physical health. And it is an additional stress. It is a challenge. So we are trying to create a platform where everyone can, figure out and reach their peak potential through training, through their environment, become a product of their environment by being around good people and be challenged. And ultimately, like I said, we got an awesome program, but, there are other group training options, but challenge yourself, come and train at 14% and see how you go and, expose yourself to some awesome benefits. So that's what we do, brother. And basically in a nutshell, and, Corey, you've had this little chat a few times now, but look, when you go into the room, it's reduced oxygen. Your body's going to have to work harder no matter what you do. And your body's going to have to respond. You boys have been in an ice bath. When it gets cold, you react. It's adrenaline, panic breath. The same response has to happen to your body. You're now asking it to do something, and the boys were throwing some weights around back and buys the other day. You're doing this with reduced oxygen. Your body's going to have to respond. You're out now asking me to do this with less oxygen. I'm going to have to figure out a better way, a more efficient way to function and perform. And when it adapts through those adaptations, that's how we get the performance and health benefits. So, like I said, a program that's scaled for everyone, but an environment that allows us to get better results in a more efficient, less time, with less load and intensity, less wear and tear on the joints and tendons, and it can be done by everyone regardless of your ability or experience. So, and that also allows us to tell what is something that I'm passionate about, which is a story that can build resilience, because just like the popularity of an ice bath or these other modalities, breath work, we know that you're putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation under stress. And what choice are you going to make? How are you going to react to that? And your ability to control your breathing and control your emotional state when your blood oxygen levels are 15 to 20% less, something you cannot achieve at sea level, something's going to have to happen there, and you're going to improve your ability to cope and deal with stress and adversity in your day-to-day life. So group training is an amazing platform. It doesn't matter what sign's on the door. So the community aspect is something like nothing else, and that's one of the key components, to be around good people, like-minded people, to train with someone who's got good energy, who's trying to get after and trying to get results, and it's inclusive. That's very special, and that's group training in a nutshell. But to be able to get results, to be able to have a play and an impact on people's mental health, and to be able to improve their performance outside of the gym, we got a special opportunity. So it's cool. We're at studio number 20 in Balcatta in Perth. Yeah,
nice, bro. Do you know much about the technology behind, the whole... Yeah.
What technology behind
the like making the room at altitude?
Oh yes, it's a very simple concept. If you looked in the room, it's like an aircon.
Yep.
Fresh air comes into the room every minute. 2,400 litres of air. But all it does is it goes through a filter, which manipulates the level of nitrogen and oxygen, and it reduces the oxygen in the air that we breathe. So there's no pressure. It's not a chamber. Look, the reality is if you want to experience altitude training, simulated altitude training isn't new. It's just never been available and accessible.
Yeah, okay.
It's only been accessible in these different environments.
Just never seen it in a gym.
And it means you can't get sick. It means you don't have to travel to a mountain. It means there is no pressure. It's not a chamber. And it's literally just an environment, a tool that's been used, proven, scientifically backed. And now it's still a wild concept. Like, we are kind of pioneering it. And now it's around the corner at Balcatta or at bloody Newcastle or wherever else. So,
I mean,
benefits of training at altitude.
Key benefits are, and just go back to that original statement, everything is intensified.
Yep.
So whatever results you're looking for, and if you look at the key results most people are looking for, they want to lose a bit of fat, they want to gain a little bit of muscle. So, because your body has to work harder, you'll burn 30% more calories in a workout. Very simple test, and I get a lot of our coaches to do it, depending on what you wear, wearable tech. You could take a seat at reception, I'll burn 90 calories in 20 minutes. I'll sit in the room and I'll burn 170, 180, stationary, just sitting there. So that's an awesome effect. And then it's the hormonal responses. Altitude training, we're supporting a scientific research paper being done in Queensland that shows with exposure, this is done in rats and now it's being done in humans, exposure 3 times a week to a high altitude environment can cure diabetes. So, there's benefits to Alzheimer's. There's all these different things in terms of what it can do to your actual health. But in terms of muscle, your body, blood flow restriction training is a really easy one. People wear the straps and the tourniquets. What they do is they're restricting blood flow to the muscle. So it puts it under more stress and it forces a response. We do the same thing, but with less oxygen.
Yep.
So you're going to increase protein synthesis, you're going to increase the stress on the muscle, and again, it's going to have to adapt, and that's where we'll get increases to hypertrophy and lean muscle gain, but with less load and intensity.
Yep.
So in terms of, you'll burn fat more efficiently, you'll burn more calories. Some of the hormone increases will restrict your hunger, which is great for a calorie deficit or a calorie restriction. Mm-hmm. You'll improve and increase your ability to gain lean muscle mass. Yep. And we've got a program that, it's got modifications, it's got all the equipment, we've got the cable rigs, we've got the barbells. But the key is you got to be in that state.
Yep.
We test that during the workout and you got to force the adaptation. The mental health story, which I explained, which is extremely prominent. So between your fat loss, your lean muscle gain, the last one is your performance. Think about it like this. And a lot of the best athletes in the world have utilized altitude training. But think about it like this. If you're training with lower blood saturation levels, our brain is designed to protect us.
Yep.
So when you're training with less oxygen, and this could happen in like you could have an argument or you could be scared and your brain's going to respond and try and protect you, right? But now you're fucking training with less oxygen. So your brain is like, what is going on? It's fight or flight. It's in survival mode. Now, when you're training with less blood saturation, then you go out to perform and work at max capacity. Think about 400 meters, the sprint event. Like that's probably the toughest track and field event. It's just on the cusp of, it's pretty long, but you have to sprint the whole time.
Aerobic, anaerobic, yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking tough. Now, if you do that, the reality is, we spoke about you can't lower your blood sats at sea level. The reality is, you will just slightly reduce your blood saturation levels. Yep. You're working at max capacity. Now, what happens when you do that? Your body will respond in so many different ways. Lactic acid, fatigue, pain. It wants to protect you. It wants to slow. This is what we're fighting when we work at max capacity. The reality is one of the big plays when you go to perform at sea level is you are blunting that brain signal and that brain response because it is used to training in this stress state with lower blood saturation levels. That's one of the big reasons why you can train at a higher intensity for longer and increase your time to fatigue, and why athletes use it to increase their performance. So that's the sort of roundabout cascading effects that altitude gets to all of the different things we're trying to achieve, which is like lose a little bit of fat, gain some muscle, feel good.
Bring that group fitness environment,
right,
the culture.
Get around your tribe, get social. And, if it's something that you're interested in, perform better when you go outside the gym.
Awesome, bro.
How far into the study are they doing with the diabetics?
So we are just starting the clinical trials. And like the big thing about
it'll take off if some benefits come out of it. Yeah.
Think about it, right? And obesity is a big one. This is a lot of studies being done with obesity. You have limitations. How hard can they train? What can they do? Like they can't do anything that's impact or load, or they can't work at a high intensity. But you come into the room and by doing very little, mate, your heart rate's through the roof. You're burning calories. So for them, exposure to the high altitude environment is extremely beneficial.
Yeah.
It's a very similar concept with diabetics in terms of what it does internally. So just exposure to the environment. Now, a lot of us don't have those limitations, but it's a good little reflection on what the environment can do to different people. And for us, we're taking that same concept, and we are for everyone, because maybe we go in there and we want a little 10% performance edge. That's where we're at. But maybe 60-year-old Jenny goes in there and she's been injured and she can't lift weights and she can't go crazy on the conditioning, but she can get a great workout with a much lower load and intensity because of the environment, because it's having an internal physiological response. So
and she's getting sick of water aerobics.
Yes, that too.
Too many kids are pissing in the pool.
Yeah, when you look at it that way, it's an easy game. we're playing.
Get in the
weights in the
altitude,
water.
Jenny.
But to take it all back, bro, we're not trying to. It's not wizardry in there. It's not some magic. Like, it's very important that with our marketing, we're not making all these crazy claims and all this bullshit. Like, this has been used for years and years.
Years, bro.
Yep.
You know,
Years.
Mexico City Olympics is where it started.
Yeah.
They went to the Olympics. Everyone's times were ruined. It's like, what's going on here? And the altitude obviously had a big effect. So all we're doing, and take away the altitude for a second, we're a group training platform that gets people moving and it's fun.
Yep.
And we're having an impact on people's lives. So any fitness concept that does that, I'm a fan of. I'll never bag anyone because you're doing that, first and foremost. But ultimately, we've included an environment into an awesome training program and a concept, team training, that has an effect on people's results and the way we train. That's what we're doing.
Mate.
That's it.
Nice.
Simple.
Man, no, but like
not
you said,
locked.
like, I always say to people, like, oh, should I go to this gym with that? I'm like, if you're finding value in it, if
you
you're being
enjoy
more
it,
active
yeah.
and you enjoy, like, there's the value there.
Yep.
Doesn't matter if it's should I be doing CrossFit,
Yeah.
this or that.
Yep.
So, well, if you're paying and you're going, it's your,
If it
the
makes you
value's
go,
there.
yeah, and you like it,
the value's there
100%.
towards a better, healthier life. Like, it's 100%.
Move your ass and have a laugh.
That's it, bro.
It's gonna work.
That's
But
it.
as we
That's
know,
it.
like, there's so many ways to get results.
Yep.
Now, okay, if you're a bodybuilder going on stage, yeah, you're probably going to have to go and do that.
Yep.
Yep.
You know, or if you want to compete in the CrossFit game, yeah, well, you're going to have to go do that.
Yep.
But we're talking about, you know, Joe Blow who wants to feel good, look good, you know, be healthy, improve their lifestyle, and be around good people. There's plenty of options.
Yeah.
100%.
Nice, bro. All right, well, I'm down to 3% on my laptop, boys. But I want to close off with this question with you, bro.
Yes, brother.
If you could go back, what crucial advice or insight would you share with your younger self, bro?
What crucial advice would I share? It's a tough question. It's a tough question.
I've only got 3%, bro, so...
Would you have gone for those beers with the boys, dudes?
Cruises. Mixed flavors.
It's so hard because I don't know what you boys think, but like everything I know now has come with, I feel like just like experience and
Experiences,
maturity,
yeah,
you know? So
yeah.
it's like you go back and of course who I was 2 years ago, I'm like, fuck, I'm so different to that person, you know?
Oh,
And that's
for sure.
good. Yeah,
Yeah,
it should
for
change
sure,
all the
bro.
time. you know?
100%, and it's constant evolution. But
Yeah.
I think when I went back, it would just be like if you could. Maybe it's not even about giving advice, but what if you could, like a podcast like now, all the things that I know and the wisdom that I have, what if you just sat your younger self down and just had a yarn and just told them all these stories?
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Like that. I can't give you specific advice, but what if we just sat down and I told you all this shit and you were like, fuck, all right. And then you just understand everything. Like that's what I'd do. That's the answer.
Yeah. Nice, bro. Nice.
Hindsight. It's a lovely thing.
Yeah, just tell them all the stories, all the things I've been through, and like I learnt that I do this now. This is who I am, and then just imagine them just going, "Fuck, wow, mad," having that
Mad.
information.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Shot, bro. All right, brother. Well, on behalf of us,
Thanks
thanks for coming on,
Thank you
bro.
so much.
Really
Cheers,
appreciate
bro.
it.
Guys.
Me.
Yep,
Pleasure.
really appreciate it. And close us out, bro.
With our Waita, no coach wisdom.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, I've got
Got
a
a
We got
coach.
2% now, bro.
2%, bro. What is it, bro? I think it's the Rugby League quote, bro. Rugby League is like war, easy to start, difficult to stop, and impossible to forget.
There we go.
There we go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice, bro.
Nice.
I just picked a song. First one that I seen that popped up. That's us, Fano.
Don't ever do
Thanks
that
for tuning
again,
in.
man.
Thanks to Sandor.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, boys.
Appreciate
My
it.
Catch you
man,
next
my
time.
man. Later, Fano. Ka
See ya.
kite.
Beauty.
Mad, bro. Fuck,
Appreciate
that's
it,
gangster.
That was mad.
Yeah.
Thanks, brother.
Appreciate
it.
Come on, man.
Appreciate it,
Awesome,
boys.
bro.
Love it.
I think I got quick piss, boys. I'm holding it in the whole fucking
That's your third one, man.
We've got a, so this is our black book.
Love what you guys are doing, man. It's good.
Thanks, bro.
Good, bro. Yeah.
Cheers.
We've had some pretty fucking top.
Yeah, I see it. It's cool, eh?
Yeah.
It's buzzy. The same thing you think about. Like, oh, I just want to start a podcast and you do all that stuff. It's so
Yeah.
good.
That's it.
Yeah, me and the bro were against it.
Yeah?
And the bro's like, bro, just let me fucking buy you a beer, bro.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm fucking too busy. This fella's, I'm too busy. He's like, bro, just let me buy the beers, bro. He was like, oh, well, yeah.
That's it, bro. So we get our guests, bro. They usually write like a quote that they live by.